All right, everyone, let's just jump into a 1-minute review of what we've already covered, and then we'll go into the next step of writing good sentences with evidence. So we talked about building quotations into your sentences using squippies, and we had some sample sentences like the one you see here. Smith states, "This book is terrific," with the page number in parentheses, red, blue, and green. Signal phrase, quote, parentheses. Using that same color coding, we could vary it up. Signal phrase, Smith points out that, no comma, quote, "millions of students would like to burn this book," end quote. And again, in parentheses in green, your page number to identify where you got it, and a period at the end of the sentence. Now, last time we got a little more sophisticated and we came up with a sentence like this one. In Bradstreet's poem, the speaker reviews her relationship with her husband more than whole mines of gold. Line 5. No verb in there that means says or writes or anything like that. It just flowed from the red into the blue, from my writing into the writing of the poet, Anne Bradstreet in this case, and then the citation at the end. Now, sometimes less is more. Usually more is more, but in this case, less really is more. When you're quoting something, you really want to be picky. You want to be choosy. Let me show you what we mean. Here's another sentence based on the Bradstreet poem. She values her husband's love so much that she cannot repay him. However, in an expression of her faith, she prays God blesses him, quote unquote, manifold. Bradstreet, line 10, period. Now, that whole sentence, all my evidence boiled down to one single word that I copied from the original poem. Why? Well, we don't need a whole sentence, first of all. We chose a word here that's unique. We don't use that word manifold anymore. It just kind of means many times over. She prays that God blesses her husband a lot, right? So it's said in a way that's unique to our audience. And so that makes it stand out and be more powerful. It also captures a little bit of the poet's style because it is her vocabulary. And therefore it shows that I know my stuff. I did my homework. I read the poem. And I understand a word like manifold. I can even use it in a sentence. Wow, I'm pretty good, right? But most important of all, it emphasizes a key idea that's being made in this sentence. The whole point of this sentence is that Bradstreet really loves her husband and she wants him to be super blessed, right? This is like a love story kind of thing from Puritan times. You didn't know they were allowed to fall in love, huh? But here's the thing. That one word emphasizes that. If I chose to quote the word, him, I don't know if that's a unique usage that lends any power to the point I'm trying to make. Okay? So that one word jumps out at you. And of course it flows into the sentence beautifully. Let's look at it again. A lot of students look at that and they go, well, if it's evidence, like how come it's all my writing, not Bradstreet's? Well, because it's your essay, right? Look at the red part again. The underlined part is basically kind of a summary or paraphrase of what was going on in the poem. It's not really deep thinking on my part as an essay writer. But the italicized part where it says, in an expression of her faith, right? Now I'm kind of interpreting it. She's not just saying like, oh, God bless my husband, he's such a good guy. But it's kind of showing where her love for her husband, or her marital love, or wifely love, or romantic love, is kind of reinforced by her faith, or her faith even underlies that, right? So you kind of get this coming together of two parts of her personality, I guess you could say, right? Now in this case, because that little extra commentary is in there, it's really good because that means the essay writer is inserting their own thought about the passage. You could still put that commentary in another sentence by itself, but it's pretty smooth when you can just slip it in there with the quote and put it all together. Now you're saying a whole lot in one sentence. You got some paraphrase and summary, you've got some commentary, you've got direct quoted evidence, you've got the citation, you've got a lot of information in a single sentence. That's pretty cool. Now we've hit the 5-minute mark. I don't like to go too much beyond that. So before we practice today, let me just give you a few quick tips. First one, if you need to shorten the length of a quote by skipping the middle portion of a sentence, say, you use an ellipsis, that is a ... right? So if I have a 20-word sentence and I cut out the 8 words in the middle of it, I replace those words with 3 dots to show the reader that I'm kind of cutting up the original sentence. However, you don't have to use ellipses at the beginning or end of the quote. I'm going to assume that, like in my previous example, manifold was 1 word from the poem, that it wasn't the whole poem. So you don't have to put the 3 dots before and after it. Just leave them out. Only use the 3 dots if you cut something from the middle. For today's practice, I'm going to encourage you to not do that. But if you're struggling with it, ask me for help and we can go over it. Second tip, again, this is something you want to avoid if you can, and for today I really want you to, but sometimes when you quote something, you do have to change a word. Like if the word said her, but you didn't know who she was, you might have to say, Bradstreet's or something like that. If you do that, you use little square brackets, the little square looking parentheses. Again, we'll go over that in more detail. For today, I'd prefer you avoid that, but we will get to it. And finally, this one I don't need to tell you. Where does the period go? Every single quote, every single squippy we've done, you've seen something like what you see at the top of this page. It goes after the parentheses. If manifold was the last word in her sentence and there was a period there, we're not going to quote the period. We're only quoting the word. We put the quotation mark there, we put our citation, and then we put a period at the end of the sentence, just like we learned back in 2nd grade. Okay, period at the end of the sentence. That you must get correct, okay? The other 2 things are a little more advanced. I'm going to ask you to try and avoid those. But again, I'll be here to help you out, okay? Now, let's go back to that handout I gave you. Let's go to your notes. Let's practice.